So here we have the cases. Very quickly, what are cases? These are just ways of grouping words according to their purpose. Cases are very poorly understood in English, very misused and not normally formally learned. For example, I left school not even knowing what a case was, not even having ever heard the word case, and certainly never having heard the different names for the different cases, such as the nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. They do exist in English, however, we often misuse them. For example, if you were to walk into the kitchen and you found that it was very tidy and you'd expected it to be messy, you might say, "Who washed up?" And the person who washed up might put up their hand and say, "It was me. I did it." So to say "it was me" is incorrect. They should say "it was I," and that's shown by the very next sentence where they say "I did it." We'll get to why it is why it's a mistake to say "it was me" later on as we go through the ways to use the different cases. So the nominative case is for the subject of the sentence. Native English speakers do normally have or often have an understanding of the subject, the direct object, and so on, but I'll quickly go through them now. So the subject is the person or thing in the sentence that performs the action of a verb. I shot the sheriff, Tina went to school, your house is on fire. In each sentence, the person or thing who's doing the action of the verb, whether it be go to school or is on fire, this is the subject. And this case, the nominative, exists to show you, by changing the spelling of words, who inside a sentence is the subject. So the direct object, the person or thing that is affected by the action of the verb. The what inside the sentence. The accusative case in German, just like in English, exists to make this distinction clear. So I shot what? The sheriff. The dog ate what? My homework. The dog is the doer of the verb eat, the subject, and what did he eat? My homework. My homework is the direct object. Next, the dative shows the indirect object inside a sentence. The indirect object is the personal thing that is affected by the direct object. It normally exists to show the reason or purpose for something. So, to take the sentence, for example, I bought, I am the subject, and the verb is buy. What did I buy? The direct object, flowers. I bought flowers. And who is affected by the flowers? Who inside the sentence is going to be affected by those flowers? My mother, or my friend, or my father, whatever. And this is showing you the reason or purpose for that action. Who benefited, or who received the effect from the flowers. Lastly, you have the genitive case, which exists to show possession. English also has this case, although it is extremely cut down in complexity. In English, it's represented by apostrophe S. So, Daniel's pen, or have you seen the movie? It's showing in the cinemas, viewing room 3 right now, or whatever. In German, it's rather more complicated. You can use the apostrophe S, but minus the apostrophe. However, you can only use it after names. So you could say like Dieter's Hund, for example, Dieter's dog, just like you would in English, but they don't use the apostrophe. However, when you use any other part of speech, any kind of indefinite or definite article, you will have to change the spelling of those articles to show that it's genitive. So you could try to avoid this problem by only ever using proper nouns, but that will be awkward and hard to pull off. And you would also just be missing out on a more natural way of speaking. So, for example, in English, when you would say, if you said something like, that is my friend's house, that is my friend's house, you just add apostrophe s to the word friend, and immediately you have the genitive, just like that, very easy. In German, you would have to modify the spelling of the word my, so that you could show it's that you have possession of that house. Or that your friend has possession of that house, I beg your pardon. I'll repeat that. So in English, where you might say, that is my friend's house, and simply add an apostrophe s to the word friend to show possession. In German, you would have to say, das ist das Haus meines Freund. You would have to change the spelling of mein to show that it is in the genitive. It's the house of your friend, and the word my is going to change to show that. Ach, eigentlich war das ein Fehler. Also, so while in English you would say something like, that's my friend's house, that is my friend's house, and simply add an apostrophe s. In German, you would say, das ist das Haus meines Freunds. So you are saying, that's the house of my friend. You have to change the spelling of the word my in this example to show that it's in the genitive. And that's quite common. This is going to happen with definite and indefinite articles. The spelling, the word ending of those articles will have to change. Rather than adding apostrophe s to a noun, those articles themselves have to change to show you're in the genitive. Oof, oy, oy, oy. So, we have a few patterns across the board. Unfortunately, I would like to caution you not to get your hopes up. There are more of these tables. The table in front of us is the most basic one. It deals with direct, definite articles. So along the top row, der Mann, die Frau, das Kind, die Kinder. That's the man, the woman, the child, and the children. The in English, much easier. The patterns and spelling will change if it's an indefinite article, so a or an in English. They'll change if it's no article, so the spelling of the adjective before a noun will change in a slightly different way. And there are other small little examples where the spelling can change. Yeah. Ooh. But this is the primary one, and a good place to start. And the patterns you see here will largely be repeated across other examples with the indefinite articles and so on. So simply learn this table. Notice that in the nominative and the accusative, there is only one change. It's in den Mann. So it's repeated exactly. The only difference is that the masculine has an N rather than an R. So there's 2 lines knocked off. Just sit there and learn them. I recommend that you write them out and then give them to a friend and ask that friend to say, for example, dative feminine, accusative plural, and you give the answer. This is rote learning, and this has to be done. In the next line, it's in the next two lines, the dative and the genitive, it's slightly more complicated. There are more changes. However, notice that the masculine and the neuter are the same. So the masculine dative, dem man, dem, is the same in the neuter dative. So dem, dem Kind, dem Mann, dem Kind. And that is repeated in the genitive. So although we're now using an S rather than an M, it's the same for the masculine and the neuter. For the masculine genitive, it's des Mannes. For the neuter genitive, it's des Kindes. The next similarity is that the feminine is always der for these two rows, only the dative and the genitive. Der Frau, der Frau. And lastly, the plural is always going to change, so this just has to be learned and noticed and understood separately. So for the dative, it's going to be den Kindern, and for the genitive, it's going to be der Kinder. Okay, last but not least, for the masculine and the neutral in the genitive, you are going to add an S. You're going to add an S to the noun. This is sort of like as we do in English with the apostrophe S. For example, Sebastian's dog, Tina's cat. And you just have to remember that it's only going to happen in the masculine and the neuter. If you see the word des, then the noun is going to have an S on the end. Similarly for the dative plural, if you use the word den to talk about something plural, then there's going to be an N on the end of the noun. This is not to be confused with the masculine accusative, because remember that's in the singular. If we're in the plural, there's something quite different going on. It should be clear as you're speaking that you're talking about something plural. That's quite a large difference. So if you are using something plural and in the dative, remember that you're going to put an end on the end of that noun. So really, just learn this table. Learn it until it's second nature. It's probably going to take you. It's 16 permutations of the word the, which in English is just to write this in English would be almost comedy. Every single word would be the, spelled the. Unfortunately, it is a bit more work in German, but you just have to sit there and learn it. It should probably take you to get it on instant recall, let's say 5 hours.